step in your river, and it takes me deep. Your heart is my temple, your tears rinse my feet. I walk out, I'm able to carry your peace. It reminds me of a song that I heard long ago. Maybe I've always known that you were right there. A simple melody playing over and over in my dreams. Somehow out of reach, eluding me until I release. You come close to me when I believe, and I let you take the lead when I believe. My heart starts to see when I believe. When I believe. You said, come to my garden, eat from my tree, step in my river, let it take you deep. Your heart is my temple, your tears rinse my feet. You walk out, you're able to carry my peace. It's an ancient sound heard from the ones who came before, and now it's here once more to pierce your soul. A simple melody playing over and over in your streets, like a whirlwind burning things, tearing out the dark. That's where I believe, and my heart starts to sing when I believe. I let you take the lead when I believe. You come close to me when I believe. When I believe. It's all in your feelings. It's all how I receive your sound. All in your feelings, your emotions, they find me out. It's all in your feelings. It's all how I receive your sound. All in your feelings, your emotions, they find me out. When I let it go, when I let it go, then I let it go. I let it all go now. I let it go. Hey, now I let it go. I let it go. I let it all go now.
Yeah. What's up, everybody? We are live here in the Lion's Den on a Tuesday evening. It's a lot going on right now. You know, we're about to get into it. Shout out if you're watching live on Instagram right now. If you're watching live on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, hit that like button and share the video. And we'll get into it. You're watching Young Lion TV. Come on.
Young lion, everywhere I look, they're dying. Everywhere I look, they're dying. Young lion, everywhere I look, they're dying. Everywhere I look, they're dying. Young lion, won't you get up and start fighting? Everywhere I look, they're hiding. Young lion.
Yeah. That's right. Young Lion TV, like we do every Tuesday night. I got to give a quick shout out to my boy Brendan watching on Facebook. He said, "Hey guys, James says hi too." What's up, James? That's our little buddy. That's our little buddy. Mm-hmm. But if you guys are watching right now, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you guys hit that like button and share this video, because, you know, the type of stuff that we talk about doesn't get favored by the algorithm too well. So we need the help of you guys to, share the video, hit the like button, drop a comment in just to say hi and show where you're watching from, just to get the thing boosted a little bit so we can get this thing rolling and have some conversation. Feel free to chime in at any time, too, when we talk about stuff. Come in with questions or comments or whatever, or add on to the conversation. We always love that. But I want to give a quick shout out to our Patreon members. I see Jeff in the chat right now. What's up, Jeff? And all of our Patreon members, we appreciate you guys. If you want to support what we do, if you're not aware of what the Young Lion podcast is, it's a group of brothers, friends, family members, and mainly men that we all kind of grew up together, and we experienced a lot of things in life that we learned from. And so we like to talk about those things and talk about the mistakes that we made, talk about the spells that we've kind of broken ourselves from over the years, just from doing research and looking at things and understanding how the world works, how governments work, how society works as a whole. It gets a little conspiratorial at times, but it's what?
No, you're on the wrong page, Mom. Just letting you know.
Oh,
that's not the right.
Okay, well. So if that's something that you want to support, if that's something that you think you can get behind and you want to support, you can go to our Patreon and become a member, become a Young Lion over there, patreon.com/YoungLionTV, where you can sign up for as little as $3 a month, support what we do so we can keep this thing going and growing and get the pride growing as much as possible. Shout out to Courtney, said, "Hey family, happy Tuesday." Courtney is another one of our king level Patreon members. Shout out to you. But yeah, with me this evening, I got to give the shout outs to who's in the building right now. The brother was on time today. He is the half black, the half Indian with the Spanish last name, the most confusing man in New Jersey. He is Mr. James Garcia in the building.
What up?
He looks like Brian Dawkins, but there's a lot more to him than that. He eats roti and aloo pie and all that stuff. And then, of course, we got my big brother, but he's everybody's big brother. He's the preacher, the teacher, the people reacher. Mr. Jacob Eugene Evans III is in the building here in the Lion's Den. And, of course, we got holding down the production, switching cameras, pushing buttons, doing all that good stuff, making sure that everything runs smooth is our mother, and we love her, the best producer in the world, Miss Angelique Lopez. Shout out to her. But again, shout out to you guys in the chat. Make sure you hit that like button, share the video, drop a comment in, something to just get the juices flowing so we can get in.
You didn't introduce yourself.
Oh, yeah, myself. So I am Jamie Evans. I am
the guy who puts everything together. The behind-the-scenes guy, the technical guy.
Yeah. I learned a couple things.
He is the gumbo of podcasting.
I figured out how to put some wires together and be able to live stream. Finally figured out how to go live on Instagram.
We have to come up with something for you, man. We got Black Batman. We got me, the most
Shout out to
confused.
Black Batman. I know he's watching on Rumble right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And Jamie, we dub him the light-skinned MacGyver. Don't ever tell Jamie he can't do anything. Just like I told him that one time when he lost his wallet in a lake.
Yeah. That wallet's gone, brother. You ain't getting that wallet. I figured it out. I found that thing. But yeah. So how was everybody's weekend? Everybody had a good time? Everybody do anything special? Anything interesting?
No, I was sick.
Oh, my mom was sick. Yeah. A lot of people. This weather, man. We
Stayed
had a
home,
snowstorm.
Snowstorm. I shoveled 6 cars, my elderly neighbors, so
Wow.
I had to go to town and help them.
That's
Aw,
crazy.
That's nice.
Yeah.
You're a good guy, man.
Yeah.
You're a good guy.
I felt like, hey, they can, they're in the 80s, so.
Yeah.
People see this old lady shoveling. Nobody helps me.
Well, they ask for your number afterwards.
You got to find a half black, half Indian. That's the problem.
You're moving to the wrong place.
Too many whites around you.
So my neighbor, she was out there shoveling, right?
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, I got a question. Are you getting any water in your basement? And I'm like, no. But what happens is if you don't have your drains far enough away from the house, it goes back into the ground, comes through the floor, right? Or through the walls a little bit. So I'm like, yeah, just get an extender, right? And she's like, yeah, but I don't want it to go across my sidewalk on the one side. And I'm like, yeah, just get it to go, because our garage comes out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, just get it to come to the edge of your sidewalk so that it still goes into the ground.
Yeah.
She doesn't listen to me, right? So then when all the snow starts to melt, like especially yesterday, dude, her whole driveway, because she didn't shovel good. And I was like, you want me to help you? No, I'm good. She didn't shovel. So like, good. She just ran over the snow.
Yeah.
So all that snow turned to ice because all the water came down into her driveway and just made it all ice, dude. It was so bad.
That's the thing about snow, man. Like it's pretty when it's falling and all that, and the kids love it. But man, all I think about is shoveling, cleaning
We've
cars
gone like
off.
2 years without. I think like 2 years without any
big snow like we just had. Yeah.
Last year we had nothing.
Yeah.
Year before that though, we had like one. It was like one day where it snowed enough where you could go sledding. Because I took the kids.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
so I wanted to bring something up real quick.
Yeah.
I don't know if I brought this up to you, James. Jamie knows this, but something interesting because we all have the same name.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You know that?
I didn't know your name was James too.
No.
Oh, my name's not James. It's Jacob. Your name is actually Jacob, and you didn't know it.
I didn't?
No.
I'm a Jacob?
You're a Jacob.
All right.
The name James in the Bible is actually Jacob.
Really?
They changed it. I don't know if it was a Latin thing.
It was King James.
Well, before that, I actually watched something and I forgot to grab that clip because I wanted to show it because, we're all sitting up here.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to wait till it's all of us up here to show it, but I forgot. But it's interesting because that name, like when you look at it in the Greek, it's Jacob. It's the Greek rendering of Jacob.
Okay.
So it was changed.
James is Greek?
No. I don't know. No, James is westernized. They just when they changed the name into English.
Yeah, when they translated it.
When they translated it, but it was even before King James.
Okay.
That was the story, but I found out that wasn't
like
exactly true.
A legend.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they basically rendered it James, which doesn't make any sense, right? So when you see James in the Bible, it's actually Jacob.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I'm a phony.
Brendan said he's guilty. He drove over the snow in his driveway too.
Lazy.
Look, and his son's James too.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Jacob.
Yeah.
But isn't John also related to Jacob
No.
or James? One of
No,
them.
Mom.
No.
John comes from Yochanan,
Oh.
which is grace. It's
Well,
God
no,
is
but that
gracious.
means grace, but doesn't Jacob mean gracious
No.
too? I thought I read that.
No,
Oh, okay. Guess I was wrong.
completely different.
Well, give a quick shout out to a couple of our brothers that aren't here in Den right now. They dealing with other stuff. So Moon, shout out to Moon. I really wanted to have him here for the first thing I'm about to show, just because he's such a football fan, and
I
he
thought it was going to be an Asian thing.
no no it's a football thing, and it's an Eagles thing. And I wanted to see his reaction to it, but I'm gonna play it anyway because I saw it going viral on Twitter. And this is like a trend that you're seeing a lot lately. You know what I'm about to show?
Are you talking about what NFL is rigged?
No.
Okay.
No, I do see a lot of people talking about that, there is some credence to that. Like with them putting up who's going to be in the Super Bowl before, leaking that out.
I thought that's what you were
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
say.
I saw that.
I saw
No,
that.
what I'm going to show is something else. So, and if Moan is watching this, man, please jump in the chat and
Clarify.
explain what's going on here.
Explain yourself.
So let's just play this real quick. That's Fletcher Cox. Look what he's wearing.
He look like he's wearing a blouse.
And it looks like he's wearing a necklace, not even a man's.
It looks like he's wearing a woman's dress, a woman's suit,
Yeah.
don't it?
He looked like a black church anthem.
He look like he got a Medea suit on.
Lord.
And that's what I mean. This is the trend that I'm talking about. Is these
that shirt?
celebrities? No, the jacket and the shirt.
He got a blouse underneath.
Look at you don't see the jacket. It looks like this whole.
It looks like a blouse.
Yeah,
If you would you cover his head, you would think it's a woman.
yeah. Yes. So I don't know what's going on, but these guys are.
This is old, though.
Is it? When is this from?
This is like from, I think, the fall.
Was it? Okay.
I've seen that before. They put hats on him. These memes are ridiculous. They put on pearls. They put the old church hat.
The old church,
with the
old
veil.
church lady hat.
Listen. They destroyed him.
with
What
the
is-
flowers and that.
What is going on here though? Like, what is happening to men?
Yeah, I think it's just guys who have a lot of money that have no guidance and they're just trying to be unique, man.
That's their way of
Bro.
flossing.
It's like if you go back to one of our pictures in 2009
What?
when we had the holsters on.
Oh yeah. But that's totally different than a whole.
Jamie's like, I should
dress.
have host over a blouse now.
Yeah.
No, but the reason why we wore them was because some fashion
Yeah.
stylist
Yeah.
said these things, everybody is wearing them. You need to wear them, and we gave in to the BS.
But
That's
at
true.
least it looks masculine. This looks gay.
Yeah, and we always had clear lines that we weren't willing to cross. Like we've done many photo shoots where
Yes,
dudes
yes.
they would bring out the rack of clothes that were like,
That's
okay,
a dress.
Yeah, all
Where's
of that.
Cat
We
Williams?
would be like, all of that is
Yeah.
not getting.
We would
worn.
just laugh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But still, we still like got talked into stuff that when we look back on, it's like,
yeah.
why did
What
we
were
wear
we
that?
doing? Yeah, that's true.
A lot of those guys are young too, like
Yeah,
in their like mid 20s, 30s,
Yeah,
so they haven't really matured.
so they were
The NBA is even worse. though.
wearing dresses is out of not maturing.
I mean,
That's what we.
they're young, like you said. Like there could be some influences, designers, people who talk to them, and they think it's cool.
Right, this is the new trend right now.
Right?
yeah.
Now,
There's
dress like an old
there's
church
definitely been
lady.
people wearing dresses
Yeah.
on.
The NBA is even worse, man. The NBA players, they're out of control.
Yeah, what's his name? Was LeBron James wore a dress
Yeah.
Yeah,
not too long ago.
yeah. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This is like a trend. I'm seeing a lot of celebrities dressed like women.
Yeah. I mean, if you can, Pharrell Williams and I think it might be one of the modern mumble rappers. They're at a fashion show and they look like waiting to exhale. Someone pointed that out.
Let me see. Let me see if I can find it.
Waiting.
You remember that movie Wait and Exhale? Someone compared it. It's just
Whitney Houston.
Yeah, Whitney Houston. He is the new head designer for Louis Vuitton.
Oh, Pharrell is?
Yeah, Pharrell is,
Okay.
and it's just, oh my god, man, what's these guys doing?
I think that was like one of the only movies I got talked into going to see, and fell asleep
What movie is that?
waiting to exhale.
Who talked you into that?
My girlfriend at the time.
Nah,
You can't
I can't find it. I
Okay.
can't find it. If you can find it, send it to me. Brendan said he did his eyebrows too. He probably did.
It's just money, and they ain't got nothing better to do.
Okay, so then on the sports tip, there was a UFC event this weekend. Did you watch that
Yeah,
fight?
I didn't watch it, but I know what you're going. I know where you're going with this.
So Dana White gets into it with one of the reporters.
No, I actually just saw this.
You saw it? So the reporter tries to talk about his relationship with how he lets the fighters say whatever they want, but he uses terminology that kind of shows you the mentality of these people.
Well, we gotta set it. They're in Canada.
Yeah, they're in Canada.
They're in Canada.
That's true.
And the UFC, their press conferences, they invite journalists. So the journalists that come, Sean Strickland is a very outspoken
Yeah.
fighter. He's a champion.
He talks about Trump.
He talks about Trump. He talks about transgender. He talks
Yeah.
about the vaccine. He says whatever he wants.
Yeah.
He's very vulgar too.
And in Canada, that's a no-go.
That's a no-go.
Yeah.
But the reporter basically goes there and baits him. He responds, and it goes viral from that.
Right, because the reporter asked him about what he says about transgender.
It had nothing to do with the fight. This is
Right.
an off-the-cuff interview that he had done a little while back that was on his own. It was the reporter was there to ask him that specific question.
Yeah.
Not about the fight, but about his statements.
And Strickland kind of just made him look stupid and sent him out of there.
Yeah.
And then so they asked Dana White about it, and this was his response right here.
About you obviously give a long leash to your fighters about what they can say when they are up there with a UFC microphone, and you are getting into territory of homophobia, transphobia. Is there?
I don't give anybody a leash.
Well, I'm saying you.
A leash?
I'm
Free speech.
When-
Control what people say. Going to tell people what to believe. Going to tell people. I don't fucking tell any other human being what to say, what to think, and there's no leashes on any of them. What is your question?
I was asking that question. I'll move on though.
Yeah, probably a good idea. That's ridiculous to say I give somebody a leash. Free speech, brother. People can say whatever they want and they can believe whatever they want.
If about
Yeah, and even that phraseology, you give them a long leash.
Right.
That's just that's that mentality that because they work for you, you have to control them. You know what I mean? This is what people are so used to. They're so used to not being able to say what they want, not being free to say what they want, because they're worried about getting in trouble from their employer.
Right. And Dana White is unique in that what he does, not necessarily me being a fan per se. I love the UFC of anyone, but this is what I like about Dana White is that he allows the press to come ask his fighters any questions. But what the press will do, and usually a lot of these reporters will do, is they'll take a soundbite, print that, and say homophobic UFC fighter, et cetera,
Yeah.
and that's the headline, right? So what Dana White does is Dana White has something called Fight Pass and a vlog that he promotes alongside with the UFC, but he allows the fighters, while you're going through this camp and you're going to fight, he allows you to have a camera crew yourself, and you have your own personal page.
Yeah.
So you can have your team film, they film it, and then you can post it on your page, your fan page, or whatever it is. So while the reporters will post a certain clip with a headline that they wanted to grab your attention to basically frame it in their perspective, what Dana White does is he allows the fighters and the UFC to post the entire interview. So,
So
how
you
you
see
ask
things in full context.
yeah, so everything's in context. Because if I take a clip of me saying, "Hey Jamie, how you feel about rapists?" Well, rape. Jamie loves rape.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I take that, and if I can't contest that, if the UFC owns that footage and won't give me the footage, or the UFC doesn't post the footage to show it in context of the question asked, your answer, and they just post that, they don't defend me, then the reporter kind of they control the narrative, basically.
Yeah.
So Dana White says, hey, the fighters are allowed to vlog. We are allowed to vlog. You can ask your question, but if we see anything, we then tag you.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody wants to know what you're writing about, we'll give them the context of the story.
Right.
So that's the difference between that and the NFL or hockey, NHL, and basketball, NBA.
But here's my question though. So when you see these journalists, quote unquote journalists, I call them activists or narrative shapers, when you see them coming in with that agenda to try to paint some negative light on the UFC and on the fighters for the UFC, what is the reason for that? Because when you look at all the other sports organizations, when you talk about the NFL, you talk about the NBA, you talk about, any of these other organizations that these journalists do these fluff pieces on,
right.
even if they're wrapped up in scandal. Like how many times in the NFL did we see players who killed someone, who beat up their wife, who, did something crazy on drugs or just,
Sure.
but you don't see the media like constantly trying to target the commissioner of the NFL or like the owners of those teams. But you always see that with Dana White. And my theory is because of what you're just saying, like he promotes free speech. He doesn't care about bowing down to the money aspect. And, let's face it, Trump is at the fights. Everyone hates Trump in the media.
Right.
So if Trump's going to be connected to the UFC in any way, then they got to make the UFC look like, something negative so that they can then connect Trump to that and say, see, this is why.
Yeah. No, that's a huge part about it. What a lot of them don't realize is this. The NBA, NFL, NHL it's known, but it's not as well known as fighting or like soccer is. Like fighting is across the world.
Yeah.
So Dana White is a little bit more secure in speaking like that because hockey and the NFL is kind of like localized to this and Canada, maybe some parts of Europe, but not. It doesn't reach the world. Maybe Canada, China a little bit.
Yeah.
But fighting is so different in that these other societies don't want to hear about that. They don't
Right.
want to. They don't want to hear. They don't want to see the message. They just want to see guys fight. And I think what Dana has done is the reason he likes Trump is not so much that he's a Republican per se. He talks about when he started the league. It was called human cockfighting, and Trump was the only
Terrible
one.
name.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, it's brutal. There's no doubt about it. But Trump is the only one that allowed it.
Yeah.
And he said, I would never turn my back on him.
Right.
So they don't take the context of the story. He's basically saying, hey, listen, when no one would take a chance with this, here's one guy who take a chance. And because of that, I owe everything to him.
So you're talking about loyalty right there.
Yeah, loyalty to him. And not only that, he said that, when he would come to these fights, he didn't just come and shake hands. He stayed and watched the fights. He has relationships with a lot of the fighters. So this is not just because he's president, was the president. And I think, like you said, the reporters come in with their agenda. He knows what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
And he gets ahead of them. That's why he allows the fighters to rebut and put everything in full context, right? And not come back and say, all right, well, I need you to say it this way. I need you to take that down. So he allows the reporters to come in, ask the questions. The fighters can answer the way they choose. And then if it's skewed in a certain way, he adds the clip so the fighters can defend themselves and say, no, I didn't say that. Here's why I said this, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
I mean, anything can be said and then it's taken out of context. And that happens a lot.
Yeah.
And then you have media training that happens in sports, that happens in entertainment,
Yeah.
happens with music, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they teach you how to speak.
Not offend anyone.
They teach you
Yeah.
how to answer, and it always puts it puts you in a way where you're trying to give the politically correct answer. You're trying to give the polite or nice answer. You're always trying to give the right answer in context of how the majority of people will view you, right?
Yeah.
Or judge you. And the problem with that is that when there are majority stances that are actually harmful to society and you can't speak against that, then you become enslaved to that society.
Yeah.
So if there's free speech and you exercise that right, it changes the game. And a lot of it is they're trying to suppress that. It's kind of like Elon Musk and X too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The same type of thing.
Yeah.
Like the way they mess with him.
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah. He was when he was just a Tesla and SpaceX guy, they loved him. You know, and as soon as he started, you know, speaking out on certain things and you know, now he bought Twitter and he pretty much opened the floodgates, took away the censorship. Oh my God, they want to demonize him so bad. Brendan said because Dana makes himself accessible too. That's true as well. Like he doesn't. A lot of these owners, a lot of these commissioners of these sports leagues, they barely talk to the media. You know,
And he's willing to stand his ground,
yeah,
you know, and call them out on when they're wrong about certain things. You know,
yeah,
it's a relatively new league. You know, it's been around for a while, but it's only gained popularity.
and I think that's what scares them is that, like Jake was saying, for the longest we've been told that things can only be successful if it toes the line, if
Right.
it's politically correct, if it doesn't offend anybody. So when they see an organization like the UFC where people are saying what they want, Dana does what he wants with the UFC. Like even during COVID,
Yeah.
you know, he was the only one that was out there like, no, we're not shutting down. You know, I'm
Right.
not going to lay off all my employees. These people
They never
need-
laid off one.
yeah. So that scares them that they can't stop him from being successful, even though they're trying. And I think that's the mission is to like, they want people to not watch the UFC anymore. They want people to not care because then it eliminates him from the game.
Yeah. I mean, you think about the 90s, right? 80s, 90s. And that was like the pinnacle of like TV.
Sitcoms, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Music.
Yeah, music too.
Golden age, they say,
Yeah.
because it made the most money. But when you look at what it did to the faces of it, what it did to the artists or what it did to the actors, that they felt they had to answer and talk and entertain and speak in a certain way, that they become robots. And everybody sounds the same. The ones who don't are the ones who actually stood out. Like, think about Prince.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Like-
remember that.
Prince, he fought against, he was called the artist for a while,
Right.
because of the whole thing with
Them owning his
The
name.
label owning
Yeah.
his, yeah.
owning
Owning the rights to his name.
name, but also his
His masters.
masters,
Yeah.
when they did nothing to deserve it. He
He
recorded
did-
it.
he did everything himself,
Yeah, he did
yeah.
everything himself, but yet they still owned his masters.
Yeah.
Right. So and it's funny how they call it masters.
Yeah.
Right. But a lot of this stuff, and I don't agree with everything Prince did, or even as a musician, but you see why he stood out, because he didn't conform and shut up when there's probably a lot of people telling him, like, probably at that time, like, dude, you need to calm down. You're making money.
Yeah.
You're doing it, you know. But
I mean, I would say Prince probably could have been, you know, to the level of a Michael Jackson if he would have played the game.
yeah,
You know what I mean? If he would have shut up, if he would have just went along.
right.
You know.
But then
But at what cost, though?
at what cost? I was
Yeah.
just gonna say, yeah, because you look at Michael Jackson and you look at what this dude.
He didn't start speaking out against that stuff until his 50s.
Yeah.
You know, and then at that point it was like the end of his career.
Not only that, he called himself Peter Pan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Peter Pan.
Right.
So he was caught up in. He never got to, like, think about it. He, as a child, became this caricature. So he never got to actually express himself as a kid. So now he grows up and he wants to relate back to that childhood he never really had.
Yep.
He never got it, you know? So now he's calling himself Peter Pan.
Yeah.
But Peter Pan is actually twisted in terms of what it does to kids. Is you never want to. We're all supposed to grow up,
Yeah.
right? So now he doesn't want to grow up, and because he had the money and he had the fame, he was able to create this false reality for himself. You know, that was, dude had what was his ranch? What was it called?
Neverland Ranch.
Neverland Ranch.
Yeah.
Yeah, Neverland Ranch,
Yeah.
and he had all the toys
Yeah.
and. You know, people say it was for the kids, but
We got to do a breakdown of Peter Pan one day, like how we did Pinocchio and stuff
Yeah.
like that, because
Yeah, definitely.
Peter Pan is another one of those Disney films that is full of just like mind control, weird storylines, plot lines.
Yeah, when you really look at it.
Yeah.
I think the difference between both of them, from what I understand, is Michael really kind of started to talk about more the industry and the control of who owns things when he was trying to buy properties like catalogs.
Yeah.
And Prince, when I look back on Prince, he talked about the industry, but he was also, like the word you just used, more conspiratorial in terms of like why things that I saw him talking about contrails.
Yeah.
I saw him venturing into things that were not just about music. Michael
Yeah.
stayed more in the who
Yeah.
owns what,
Right.
where's the catalog going. He was in that lane. Prince was more willing to explore why
The elite control.
the elite
period.
control.
Yeah.
You know. Even I saw a clip of Prince as a young kid, and he's talking. He's very introspective. He's very well thought out as a kid. Michael always had like a boyishness to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I just want to give a shout out to people watching on Instagram, man. We just started streaming live on Instagram, so there is a little weird thing going on with the second camera angle because of the aspect ratio. So we're going to get that fixed for the next time we stream live, so we don't have this issue, because it's like in between the two of y'all. The shot, so they can see me, but when it goes to you guys, it's in between the two of y'all, which is annoying. But yeah, Peter Pan. Next time, if anybody, go back and watch Peter Pan, and then do it from the perspective of Peter Pan is actually the villain.
yeah, yep,
You know what I mean? Because think about it, he's luring children to Neverland to trap them in their childhood so they can stay there with him for the rest of forever.
Right.
yeah,
And anytime somebody leaves, he has a fit.
yep.
You know?
It's
He's it.
Yeah.
it's like
just in tights.
it's like everything all the trauma that you have gone through. You need company.
Yeah.
You know, like misery needs company.
Yeah.
You need company, and you get them to reject the parents that are gonna raise them and love them. You know, and so that they can come out of that. But what do? You get them to reject things and accept love in a false way.
Right.
Right? Because, yeah, you're right. We do that. You're right. Parents are this, or
Yeah.
you know, or you can say that about anybody. You know, this did happen to me. Yeah, I am black, and I do get disrespected, and
Yeah.
you know, whatever it is, it's about you come together with people because of hurts, because of being a victim. That's what Peter Pan to me is really about.
The new psychological language for that is trauma bonding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it happened, you know, even like you said, you were talking about the sitcoms earlier. You know, you take a guy like Will Smith, you know, that was set in high school. He was in his 20s when he was doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was
Yep.
not a kid. he was like in his early 20s when he was pretending to be
A high school
a
student.
high school student, you know. So
They always did that in Hollywood. Saved by the Bell.
yeah,
What was
but it's
it?
trapped eternally in that,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, it is. Trapped as a child, you know. Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the little bit of a political swing that happened over the weekend.
Is Moan watching? He didn't respond to that blouse.
Nah, he didn't respond to the blouse, man. I
listen,
didn't see nothing from Moon, man. He don't want to talk to us about it. So DeSantis suspended his campaign and came in and backed Trump. Did you guys see this? We'll play a little bit of
Greetings
his.
from
Nikki
Florida. The warmth of being home is a reminder why I've chosen public service. From joining the United States Navy and serving in Iraq, to representing the people in the U.S. Congress, and now serving as governor of Florida. And it reminds me why I decided to run for president.
Dude, I gotta tell you, because I saw this, like I was just scrolling Twitter or X in the middle of the night. I think it was like Sunday or Saturday evening, and I saw this, and my first initial reaction was like, "This is AI." It felt so robotic that I was like, oh, because people get fooled by AI videos all the time. And someone posted, it was like, oh, DeSantis announces he's dropping out of the race, and I'm like, this may not be real. This seems like AI.
Yeah.
Like why should it came from the beginning?
Greetings from Florida. The warmth of being home is a reminder why I've chosen public service. From joining the United States Navy and serving in Iraq, to representing the people in the U.S. Congress, and now serving as governor of Florida. And it reminds me why I decided to run for president.
Dude, even his voice
Well, the
tone,
mouth and the audio are, it's not,
Yeah, but even his tone of voice, like when you hear AI speech, it kind of sounds like that.
Right.
But yeah, so he goes on to talk about how he's dropping out the race, and he's supporting Trump, and he took a little shot at Nikki Haley. But yeah, so...
Although what would be funny is if he took off his boots and he said, I won't be needing these anymore. And he dropped them.
That would be hilarious.
He dropped them.
And you see his head go down in the frame. So guess what? The boots are coming off, guys.
Won't need these anymore.
Yeah.
And his head touched.
That would be funny. Oh, man. So, yeah, so he dropped out, and then Nikki Haley was doing her rounds.
Oh, Lord.
Bro, it is so obvious that the establishment is trying to get this woman
Oh, yeah.
in the game.
Yeah.
Did you see the interview she did on what was that station? She did an interview where she was talking about, oh, here it is. What was this?
She's
on?
back to being brown again.
NBC, yeah. Now she's a brown woman.
Yeah. She went from no racism to racism.
Yeah. Well, she has to categorize herself as a brown woman because of did you see the slavery thing?
Oh, yeah, I saw
The
it.
Civil War thing? Where you didn't see that?
No.
Where she totally botched that. Someone asked her, like, what was the Civil War fought over? And she went on this long, like
She winged it.
rant, but never brought up slavery.
Wow.
So she got dragged for that, of course. You know what I mean? So now I think that's what they were asking her in this clip right here that I'm about to play. So let's check this out.
We were the only Indian family in our small southern town. I was teased every day for being brown. So anyone that wants to question it can go back and look at what I've said on how hard it was to grow up in the deep South as a brown girl.
Do you see a brown girl when you look at her?
Not at all. See a white lady.
I see a white lady. Yeah,
I see a white lady.
she's a brown girl.
Anybody can look at my record.
And look, this is an NBC exclusive.
Yeah.
Like, why would they be? If they were interviewing any other Republican, they would be going in. But because they gotta make her look good.
And see, when Walter Scott was shot down by a dirty cop, how I made sure that the Walter Scott family didn't suffer because we put the first body camera bill in the country in place. Anybody can look at the fact that when we had 9 amazing souls die in Mother Emanuel Church, I did something that no Republican or Democrat ever wanted to touch, which was call for the Confederate flag to come down because it would take 2/3 of the House and Senate and was an impossible feat. I don't know what you're implying with that, but what I will tell you is saying that I had black friends is a source of pride. Saying that I had white friends is a source of pride. If you want to know what it was like growing up, I was disqualified from a beauty pageant because I wasn't white or black, because they didn't know where to put me. So look, I know.
You know she got dragged for that statement, bro. Everybody was getting her for that on Twitter. She was disqualified from a beauty pageant. First of all, everybody was like, what beauty pageant? Second of all, it was like she was at the age of beauty pageants in the 80s. Mm-hmm. We already had Vanessa Williams was Miss America. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
She's messing up her decades.
They couldn't handle you out there.
So ridiculous.
They couldn't figure out what to do with you because you're so brown. It just sounds like one of the made up stories, like Kamala Harris's bus story.
Yeah.
The hardships, the pain that come with racism. It's the reason that I fight bullies every day when it comes to racism, anti-Semitism, or hate, and I always will. If I didn't mention slavery on that day, it's because that's an automatic. There's always been, the Civil War's always been known about slavery.
But why wouldn't you say that? That's an automatic. They said, what was the Civil War fought over? Let me see if I can find that clip, because you got to see it, Jake. You never seen that?
She hates Vivek so bad.
Yo,
boy.
she does. But they're both brown.
He's actually brown.
But I think, like, if she would have ran maybe like 2016,
yeah,
it might have been a little different.
Oh yeah, it would.
He's not gonna go nowhere. I don't believe it.
No, I'm saying it might have been a little different because of people were so caught up in the image.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And it goes back to what we were talking about. Like literally we were just talking about, Michael Jackson. We were talking about this whole way they would image people, right? And the way they would do training, media training, everything. So all this stuff is starting to break down now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's kind of like the mind control is starting to break down.
Sure. The emperor has no clothes type thing, where it's like it just takes that one little boy to be like, because everyone goes along with it until that one boy says he ain't got no clothes on.
Yeah. It's kind of like you said, I think we're going to get to the point where AI is going to have to, everything that they say is now being fact checked to like it's like the 100th power.
Yeah.
Man. They can't as fast as this fire's burned, they can't put it out.
People were pulling up pictures of her from her so-called beauty pageant days. Mm-hmm. People were you can't get away with this stuff anymore.
You can't.
Did you find it or no?
Yeah, I found it. Okay. Here's the Civil War clip right here.
Freedoms and what people could and couldn't do. What do you think the cause of the Civil War was?
In the year 2023, it's astonishing to me that you answer that question without mentioning the word slavery.
What do you want me to say about slavery?
Nikki Haley, in a recent town hall, was asked a very simple question. What was the Civil War fought over? She came up with a word salad of nonsense, none of which included slavery. The simple answer is the Civil War was fought primarily over slavery. Bleeding Kansas, which preceded the institution of slavery. Nikki Haley,
he got me. I thought that was the actual clip of her talking about it, but he's giving commentary. But yeah, so let me see if this is it here.
I do believe Berlin is now my favorite place.
Campaigning in New Hampshire Wednesday, Nikki Haley stumbled into a controversy when she was asked about the cause of the Civil War.
Well, don't come with an easy question or anything. I mean, I think the cause of the Civil War was basically how government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do.
The questioner followed up, expressing surprise that she didn't mention slavery.
What do you want me to say about slavery? Next question.
The criticism of Haley was swift and bipartisan. GOP rival and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis weighed.
Okay, we get it. So that isn't the clip.
He's walking. Go back and watch him walk.
It's them heels, man. It's them heels.
And Florida Governor Ron DeSantis weighed in today.
Oh man, I feel bad for him.
It's the heels, baby. Matter of fact, isn't the New Hampshire primary going on right now?
Trump won.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
But how bad, though?
I didn't see.
Because did you see how many Democrats were coming out to try to vote for her?
Really?
Yes. Dude, it's crazy.
That don't mean nothing. They could try all they want.
But they're really trying to come out to vote for her.
Of course.
To push things in her direction. Like register. People are switching their party just so they can register Democrat to vote for Nikki Haley. Yeah. Matter of fact, watch this real quick.
We asked folks coming into the polls, do you identify as a Republican? Do you identify as a Democrat? Or do you identify as an independent? And here's what we found in this exit poll so far. And I think this jumps right out at you. A minority of voters in this first wave of the exit poll in the Republican primary identify as Republicans.
A minority.
A majority, 53%, identify as either independents, 45%, or, and this is a high number historically, 8% identify as Democrats. For some context here, in 2016, the last competitive Republican primary, presidential primary in New Hampshire, the electorate was 55% Republican. It was 42% independent, and it was 3% Democratic. So in this initial wave, you're seeing some significant differences from 2016.
They're sending people out to these primaries, hoping that they can just do something to get Trump out of this.
They can try.
It's crazy, like the tactics that they're using. The media is going in, but our current president had a lot to say about what Trump's got waiting for him. I don't know if you guys want to hear what he had to say. No. You don't want to hear it? I think we should listen to him though. He is the commander in chief, and he speaks so eloquently that we need to hear what he says. Trump better look out for.
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit. We'll teach Donald.
Did you get that?
First of all, they all screamed and
they don't even know what he's saying.
No, that's a green screen behind it.
Yeah, that is.
That's a green screen. Get
and it was a fake applause.
Yeah.
He's probably he's probably not even in a public place. He's in that studio that they had built up, the fake what was it, Oval Office they had set up. Let's watch that again. In case you missed, Donald Trump must be shaking in his boots after this.
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit.
What?
Come on, man.
Did he go back and say it again?
I don't know.
Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah, he. This is the guy. This is the guy that they wanted to elect so bad. It was like, we have to get Trump out. We have to get him out. And then this is funny because on CNN, a Democratic Congress member, Rep. Dean Phillips, he said something that was kind of crazy. I'm gonna play it real quick. This is on CNN too, by the way.
And I got to tell you guys, I went to a Donald Trump rally a couple nights ago. Never been to one. I had an event across the street. I saw the line of people waiting in the cold for hours. And I thought, what the heck? I'm going to be a leader who actually invites people, doesn't condemn them. Met probably 50 Trump people waiting in line. Every single one of them, thoughtful, hospitable, friendly. All of them so frustrated that they feel nobody's listening to them but Donald Trump. A diverse crowd, people who had never been to a Trump event before. My party is completely delusional right now.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is, though? Why do you think that it's gotten to the point where, like, even a simple dialogue it's like gas, like jet fuel?
Feminism.
Break it down.
Speak on it. Speak on it.
No, because I said this on the podcast last week. Men jump to solutions, women jump to conclusions.
Mm.
And the mindset, like if a single woman raising her son is going to put on him the conclusion, and that son is going to be raised to live up to it.
Yeah.
right? That image, be it false or not, right? Most of the time false, right? So women are quicker to judge, and men who have not been raised by men are going to be quicker to judge. So that's the feminine aspect, because they're living up to an image instead of going through the process of learning, because solution comes through learning, right?
Right.
Solution comes through breaking things down. So they don't have the skill or mindset to break things down. So now they just have to jump to things. Like they don't, a man learns how to love his wife by saying, you know what, you're saying that, but why are you saying that? Or they feel a certain, she feels a certain, she might be wrong. You feel a certain type of way, but why do you feel that way? And when you learn how to do that with your wife, you learn how to be patient with your wife. You learn how to go through the process of understanding where they're coming from, right? And then you get to the place that you need to get to. That's how you get to the solution. You can't just jump, as a man, you can't just jump to the solution, right? So I'm saying all this to say that when that breaks down and that is destroyed, because that is what men primarily do, you have no recourse. You have no discourse to where you're speaking things through, you're talking things through, right? And you're able to say, why? You're even just able to say, why would you think that way? What makes you think that way? You know, like even with kids, like when kids are acting up, especially if they're not your kids, and they curse at you or they say something, instead of like, yo, don't do that. It's more like, why would you think that's okay to do that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like instead of judging them, what makes you think that's all right?
Right.
Now you get into a discourse. And I think they're looking at Trump, like he just said, they're looking at Trump people, Trumpers, right? They even get them Trumpers, the name.
Yeah.
They're looking at these people and thinking
they're all racist.
They're degenerates.
Yeah.
They're this, they're that. And it's easy to just draw a label on people.
Well,
and
especially when it's been shown in front of your face every day. Like all they talk about is, you know, these Trump supporters.
It's put in you.
Yeah.
But again, that's feminism. Because I'm not going to be listening to media and just taking in what they say as a true man that stands on what I believe. I'm gonna challenge that.
Right.
But when you get no challenge back, now we're living up to idolatry.
Yeah.
Like now we're in idolatry. We're in imagery, and that's it's funny because it's religion. You know, it becomes a religion, and that's what feminism is. It's a religion, and we don't even realize we're a part of it a lot of times. You know, so I think that's the biggest problem is men are supposed to lead, and we lead by challenging each other, not just accepting things because I feel a way about this person. And it makes sense because I've seen people do this, this, and this. So then I'll discount everything else they do, and I'll just want to look at the things that they do that justify my feelings. That's not partial. I mean, that's not being impartial.
Yeah.
That's partiality, right? So I'm not a good judge. I'm not a good measure of character.
Yeah.
How can I really know what a person is? No, I want to see them based off of my own prejudgments. That's true prejudice. And that's why you see a lot of Democrats, they'll say, you're not really black.
Yeah.
Like
Joe Biden.
You know, they'll say these things because that's the prejudice. That's actually the racism. You know, because racism is about judgment.
Yeah.
Before you really will understand somebody. You see they're black and you judge them. You'll see they're this and you judge them. You'll see they're a Trumper and you'll judge them. You see they got blue hair and you'll just judge them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Usually that judgment is accurate. But
no, but you don't know why they got there.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? You don't know how they got to that point where they think they want to have short blue hair when they're a woman. Right. So I think it falls down to men, bro. We got to start being men again.
Yeah, that's a fact. All right, so the border, man, it's just getting worse and worse. Like what they're doing right now. Did you guys see that the Supreme Court ruled that the federal government, the Biden administration, is allowed to remove the barrier that Texas is putting up? They just ruled that.
Really?
Yeah. So Texas is trying to put up these barriers because people are just walking across every day, tens of thousands of people. And so they started putting up these barriers, and then the feds came in and said, no, you can't put these up, and start removing everything. Like, why? Why would you do that?
These are the things that we're gonna have secession talk.
Well, this is what people they're saying, that like we're literally in civil war territory right now. Now the Supreme Court ordered that the Biden administration is allowed to do this, and now the governor of Texas called in the National Guard to go in and enforce the border because the Border Patrol is not doing their job. So you have another federal organization that's going against military now. They're going to be in opposition. Wow. So it's getting
even
weird.
the language, the language of asylum seeker.
Yeah.
I was listening to that today. Well, not today, but throughout this administration, the changing of undocumented
or illegal
alien to asylum seekers. And when you start looking at the word asylum seeker, usually it is at a country that is in deep war, as either religious persecution, governmental, something of that type, or something more severe than our country's poor and we don't have the economics.
Yeah.
But where did that come from? And that language, that verbiage, asylum seeker, came squarely from the left, right? And when you keep hearing that, it changes it works on your heart because
it's a spell.
Exactly. It's spell language that's meant to induce sympathy within you because it's no longer an illegal undocumented worker.
Right.
Right. So these kind of language shape how people feel. Because if we could say asylum seekers, and you watch the news anchors, how they reported asylum seekers and how they report. I'm watching the local news report in Philadelphia, and it's almost like New York. They're offering sanctuary, and they're saying, "Hey, asylum seekers." So with that, and they show a footage of women and children, usually not men. Where you see
the reality is, it's mostly young men,
right? And men of fighting age. But when you see without the way how the media works is it's meant to trap you in a space where mentally you can't see what's really happening. You're just focusing on the language that they're saying. So asylum seekers, and the news shows women and children, and you don't think of anything else.
Right.
And that's what they're doing.
Yeah. But
but on Twitter, not Twitter,
X,
or I've seen it on Instagram too, or on YouTube. When you look at, it's a bunch of men that are between the ages of like 20 to like 40.
Yeah.
That's, you will never see, you're not seeing that.
They're not from all these like
I've seen
South
Chinese,
American,
I've seen African.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
In fact, there was this one clip going around viral. This dude was caught at the border and people were questioning him, and this is what he was saying. Pull this up on.
Oh, the dude from Azerbaijan.
You are really not smart enough to know who I am. But soon you're gonna know who I am. If you will know who I am. But you are really not smart enough to know who I am. But soon you're gonna know who I am.
So people are saying they figured out who this guy is. So he's at the border basically making threats. Coming in the country. So they're saying that they're trying to say that it's this guy. I don't know if that's true. Kind of looks similar.
Looks like him.
But apparently he was a prisoner, 12-year imprisonment for terrorism. Date of detainment, January 7, 2011. Date of sentencing, October 7, 2011. Date of release, January 19th, 2023.
Yeah. From Azerbaijan, right?
Where's he from? Yep.
Yeah. I can't help but think that they know that this administration has done so bad
Mhm.
that even people who hated Trump 4 years ago realized that he was right.
Yeah.
And this is called, we've said this before, plan, reaction, solution.
Yeah.
And if they could bring in these people, certain men filtering it within this in these groups, just like you're talking about, men are doers. There are certain men who are doers, but their do is specifically evil.
Mhm.
And we bring those kind of guys in to cause chaos. And they're the agents of chaos. Now we're controlling them to a certain degree, but you'll need us to corral them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the point again, because that guy was put in jail for what?
Terrorism.
So, like I said, men jump to what?
Solutions.
And a lot of times that's the solution is death.
Mhm.
Right? The solution is I smack you.
Yeah.
So you shut up.
Mhm.
That's the solutions they come to, right? When people don't want to talk.
Right.
They want to get to the business, you know. And this is what we have a lot with this administration. They're lazy. It's the opposite of all this.
Mhm.
They're
lazy, or they're planning.
Yeah, I think they're calculated.
And yeah, what I'm saying is that they're doing the things that they think they need to do
Mhm.
to please people.
Yeah.
In one sense.
Mhm.
Right? So in one sense that's what they're putting forward, right? In terms of who they got. When I say lazy, I mean you look at the people they're putting forward, right?
I don't even think they're trying to please people anymore, because when you look at even the polling numbers, one of the number one topics right now when it comes to this election is immigration right now.
Well, what I'm saying is I'm talking about Biden.
Mhm.
I'm talking about the people they're putting forward. Kamala Harris.
Mhm.
So Kamala Harris is not a stupid person, but she sounds stupid because she can't talk because she's such a pleasing person
Mhm.
in terms of in the public eye.
Right.
She can't talk.
Yeah.
Because it's hard for her to even get stuff out because she's thinking about
Her
every
image.
word
Yeah.
and how to say it, right? I'm just saying that's the image they're putting forth.
Mhm.
But then what you're saying is behind the scenes, there's that, because I don't think that the people they're putting forth are actually the people that are really doing the thing.
No, absolutely not.
Behind the scenes, they're planning things. They're being more diabolical,
Mhm.
right? And they're trying to bring about their agenda.
Yeah. They're all meeting at Davos right
Right.
now, setting up all this stuff.
Well, here's the thing, right? I've been thinking about this lately, right? Like the demonization of white males in the sense of when you think of white males, the association usually go to racist, localized terrorists,
Yeah.
per se, right? So imagine if there was to be some sort of civil war interaction or secessionist type of interaction, right? Who would probably more likely to defend the border? Who would likely to go take up arms to stop this bleeding?
Yeah.
Would be them,
Mhm.
right?
Them,
white males,
White males.
who have access to guns, the
Right.
freedom, the those type
they
of
want to
guys.
hold on to the American Constitution
And the sovereignty of the United States
Yeah,
in that
yeah,
sense, right?
yeah.
But if we can paint a picture of years of white male supremacy, you know, we saw that language heavy
Yeah.
during Trump. If there was sort of an interaction between them and these undocumented people, they would frame it as racist white males attack
Mhm.
people seeking asylum.
Right.
Right? Not American men go to the border to secure it.
Secure our
How
border.
would they paint that?
Yeah.
You
So
know what
you're
I mean?
saying that they're trying to set up a scenario where, because let's face it, the way this immigration thing is going, you know, white people are not going to be the majority in a
Sure.
minute. But all other races are not unified.
Right.
But if you can get them to be unified on one enemy, which is the racist white man,
Mm-hmm.
now you have a fighting chance in a civil war situation. That's what you're saying essentially.
I feel like they've done such a good job with that for the last few years that let's just say a group of men say, look, we're going down there and we're gonna, because I'm gonna totally butcher this, but part of the Constitution is if the government can't protect its borders, you could take up arms. I don't know that I can't, but I've heard this,
right?
That you can physically take up arms to protect the border itself. That's a part of the Constitution. Who would be more likely to do that?
Yeah,
right.
White men.
So if we can demonize white males to say that they're racist and they're doing this because they're racist,
and then flood the country,
flood the country
with people that could oppose them from all other countries, unify them on that stand, and pass some bills, because we saw bills being passed where they can legally attain firearms.
Right. But I'm going somewhere with this in another aspect, because here's the thing. Let's just say they can get footage of some white American males doing that. All you would have to do is then get an infected governmental body, the FBI, the CIA, to dress up like them and show them doing something deplorable that then you can correlate, whoa, you can't be kicking babies and children and beating up women, and then associate those guys with this guy. Now you have the image that you want. That never happened, but if we can get something to look like that, then we can show that and show the people and say, oh, see what they're doing. This is really what they're about.
Yeah. I mean, that's the tactic they use all the time. Remember the kids in cages thing?
Right.
It's always about painting a picture that, is not really reality, but you can get everyone on your side by showing images that evoke emotions.
Right. Because
especially with kids involved.
Right. And the reason I say that is because when Kamala was announced as the VP, there was a lot of pushback on her record as a prosecutor and her unfair sentencing, specifically of black men with marijuana.
Yeah.
And then her going on to
the Breakfast Club
and bragging and joking about it. In fact, people did a lot of breakdown of the video when she was talking about an album she listened to. That album didn't even exist at that time.
Right.
But nonetheless, the pushback was so strong, and more specifically, it was from black men. There were articles, New York Post and a couple others, that posted and said, "Black men, the new white racist supremacist," or whatever.
New white supremacist.
White supremacist, right? Making the correlation that black men were somehow racist towards her because they weren't going to vote for her because they were bringing up her record on her prosecution rate, specifically with black men.
Yeah.
And recidivism with the schools and all this kind of thing. And it's like they were already gearing up that if they didn't win, it was going to be because black men were practicing a form of white supremacy. You see what I'm saying? It didn't happen. But if it didn't, they were already sowing the seeds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like if it does get to the point where the American public is strained through this overflooding of undocumented illegal aliens, if anybody does go try to defend the border, what they'll then do is then try to paint it, because these seeds of racism is so etched into everything that it'll be, all you would have to do is take an agency and then disguise it as those guys to make it look like it is in fact a bunch of racist white guys beating up people.
Well, I think that could work because, people see racist white guys and they just lose it, and they can't wait they want justice, But I think they're not taking into account how fed up black people are with this immigration thing. Black people are not having it. When you look at what's going on in New York and in Chicago, and
I've seen that.
I got this clip from Charlemagne on an interview where he's talking about the immigration thing, and talking about the people that call into his show all the time. I'm gonna play it real quick.
I have the privilege, man, of doing morning radio and speaking to working class people every single day. I have the privilege of being involved in my community from New York to New Jersey to South Carolina, where I get to look people in the eyes and have real conversations with them, and people are really concerned about this issue. Like I honestly have never spoken to as many people who are concerned about the migrant issue as I have, over the past year. And I mean, I've heard everything from, you know, the gang MS-13, you know, overrunning neighborhoods. I've heard, you know, what we saw just happened in New York City, where the migrants, they took 2,000 migrants and put them in the school and made the school stay home, made the students stay home and you know, do school via Zoom, and that was a big issue. Like, I mean, people were calling the radio station.
You hear about that?
Was just this week.
I
You know,
hear
really,
that.
really.
Yeah, they shut down one of the schools to house migrants and made the kids do Zoom school for like a whole week.
Really complaining about that. So I've never seen, you know, working class people who I interact with every day until this past year really express their frustration for the migrants. And it's not even just the people. Like, you see politicians who once, you know, championed having the migrants in the city, like the mayor Eric Adams of New York. Now they're like, yo, hold up. This is too much. You know, we've heard Vice President Kamala Harris say, hey, don't come. Like, we've seen that. So yeah, I think it's going to be a real, you know, real big issue. And, you know, immigration, something like immigration will never be resolved because of the filibuster. Like, the only things that pass are issues where they remove the filibuster. So you would need Republicans and Democrats to come together and create some comprehensive immigration reform. But, you know.
But it will happen if it's an issue, right? Because, again, they're supposed to be servants of the people.
Right.
Right. But it's who are they putting pressure?
Yeah.
But when we're caught up in other realities, like you were saying, it's different realities we're caught up in where people are focused on. Because I remember back in 2017, 18, where Trump was dealing with the border, right? And people were saying that what was it? The human
kids in cages, man.
No. But they would say, like, the left would say
concentration camps. They were saying concentration camps.
I'm saying there's no borders. The world has no borders.
Oh.
And humanity has no borders.
Oh, like, yeah.
How can you put borders on humans? That kind of stuff.
That was the the acting mayor of New York at the time.
Yeah, governor.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the mantra.
Yeah. They were all saying that. AOC, all of them were saying that.
But again, my point, it sounds good, right? It sounds good as an image. It sounds good when you jump to a conclusion and you haven't thought it through.
Right.
And the problem is you ain't think it through whatsoever. Like, you didn't even well, maybe you didn't. No.
Right.
And that is our issue. This is the issue we're having. So again, like, bro,
go ahead and say it. It's feminism.
It's feminism. It's feminism. But I'm saying it as an ideology of when we are going to an emotional pull, an emotional trigger all the time, and thinking that somebody says something and it makes sense because it tugs on my feelings. It triggers me, right? And it angers me, or it makes me feel like I need justice, or we need justice for this. We need to think these things through.
Yeah.
These things are not as simple as drawing conclusions. If you become a judge, you have to know the law.
Yeah.
You don't just get up on that. Now it's like anybody's becoming judges.
Right.
But before you didn't just.
You had to know the law.
Yeah, you had to really know the law, right? So and you can't just judge on anything, right? There's ways of doing this stuff. So, and all these things were put in place for a reason, right? Even the filibusters, all this stuff, they were all put in place for a reason. And when we abuse it, it gets perverted. And when you don't have people holding other people accountable, which is primarily men's job.
Yeah.
When you don't have people challenging other people in these things, you get chaos and you get perversion and you get people perverting the situations. And I heard this from somebody, a feminist, and she's like, well, we're winning. And like, even to think in that way, like our ideology is winning, you know? And it's easy to like think about America is more about money. right? In terms of like, it's about the market.
Mhm.
So in terms of, well, whatever sells, this is where we've come to. It shouldn't be this way. It hasn't always been this way, but where we've come to is whatever sells is what matters.
Mhm.
Whatever sells is what we push forth,
Yeah.
right? What we put to sex sells, right?
Mhm.
Whatever sells, we push forward. Where if you have standards, values, morals, then you won't do that.
Right.
You have standards. You have lines that you won't cross,
Mhm.
and if people try to cross those lines, you're going to challenge them in that, right?
Yeah.
You have borders,
Right.
you have boundaries,
Mhm.
right? And a lot of these people who think they're winning because the society as a whole they're the loudest, I'll say, and they're going this way. Think about what's out of control. Porn is out of control, right? In young men, all these things are out of control because young men are out of control.
Yeah.
Young men don't know how to take control over their lives a lot of times. So then what suffers? Marriage suffers, right? Having kids suffers. We got less kids now. Like people are having less kids. It's such a low rate of having kids, especially now with the COVID vaccines, right? We have such a low rate of production of kids where we're going to be like South Korea soon, where we're not going to be able to
replace ourselves.
Replace ourselves,
Yeah.
right? We're not thinking about all these things. When you say we're winning, you're not thinking about none of this
Right.
stuff. So you don't get it. You might be winning now, but the long game you're
Right.
losing,
Right.
and that's the problem. Yeah, you're gonna lose because not only are you becoming weak, because when people come that, like we said, that don't care in that way and jump to solutions and jump to killing, right? And don't care about the stuff you're talking about. Ain't gonna even talk through
Right.
the stuff or give you the grace to
Yeah.
talk through it, right? Then you realize, oh, maybe this patriarchy we thought we had to come against wasn't as bad as we
Yeah.
thought. Because now these people are coming in and they're strong because we became weak. And you can't do nothing about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is where we're at, man.
I mean, there's been a couple of incidents where a lot of the way the media is operating, where there have been break-ins, rapes, lots of incidents with them. But when it's time for persecution, they don't know who these people are.
Yeah.
They're, usually it's just deportation.
Yeah.
So there's really no justice for the family who's been dealt that hand. And like you said, like there's a breakdown in masculinity in our society in terms of the protective nature that men have has been attacked. So, like I said, I made the correlation months ago, when we were talking about the transgender issue with bathrooms, right? Within every heterosexual straight man, we know that there's an evilness within males, that all you would have to do is that if a man have that nature in him, he would have to pretend to be a transgender to go into a female body. You just gave him access to do that. He's not really a transgender. He's a pedophile,
Predator.
and he realized you've given him
Yeah.
an opening.
Yep.
And the opening is now I get to pretend to be a woman and go into the very place I was forbidden, because a few years ago that would be obvious, but now it's not so obvious. And in fact, people will fight for my right to be in there. And we know the nature of men.
And you're seeing that a lot. You're
Yeah.
seeing that a lot with there was just a trans woman activist from New York who just got
molested 13-year-old boys.
Just got indicted for that.
Right.
Wow.
For being a predator, right? It's funny. I was just, when you were talking about that, I'm seeing like men dressing up as women. I'm thinking about wolves in sheep's clothing. Like,
Yeah.
Literally
Right.
wolves in sheep's clothing.
And think about that, right? As a man, as a father, I mean, I will have to do what I have to. I know you guys will too. But there are gonna be certain men that, because they haven't massaged this muscle in them, the this protective nature that rather than go in and risk being shamed, they'd remain on the fence.
Mhm.
They would sit there and say, oh, I don't want to judge. I don't know. And let a man walk in after their daughter or
Yeah.
their niece or
Yeah.
their son because they are fearful of being ridiculed.
Mhm.
Because that has been heightened to such a level where their natural instinct to be like, whoa, 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 you ain't going in here, buddy.
Yeah,
Who are
yeah,
you?
right.
That has been shamed.
Yep.
That has been shamed. You know what I mean? And these languages, these things have slowly conditioned people to sort of police themselves
Yeah.
into not responding the
Right.
way.
Because now people will say, "What are you, some sort of bigot?"
Right.
Well, again, what I was talking about earlier, that's the conclusion because that's the image.
Mhm.
We're already in fear. Like, that's the shame. Look at Palestine. They're going around to these businesses, especially in New York, right? And they're shame on you, right? That's their mantras. Shame on you. You
Yeah.
support Israel. Shame
Yeah.
on you. What are they doing? They're putting an image on you and they're judging. And a lot of times they don't even know what they're talking about.
Right.
But they're doing it. And then what it is actually doing is, I don't want to be caught up in that. I don't want to have this drama. Like other people, that's the way they're thinking. I don't want to have this drama come to me. So what can I do to not have this drama come to me? I just want to live my life.
Yeah.
Right? But you're still become a part of the fear.
Mhm.
And you still become a part of the shame. I don't want to be shamed.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel that, right? So then you succumb to it without even knowing.
Well, I think part of it too is what you said earlier, right? When people react a certain way, what we try to do is try to one up them.
Mm.
Whether it's through language or through your knowledge or whatever it is. You just said earlier, when a child lashes out, your natural instinct is to want to correct them, but instead of finding out the source, which is, why did you do that? And I think as adults and as men, sometimes what we don't do is stop to take the time and say, why did you come to that conclusion? We try to do this intellectual song and dance in a battle to show I'm smarter than you. I've
Right.
attained more knowledge. Why did you come to that conclusion? Why did you feel the way? Why do you feel the way you do? How did you arrive here?
Mhm.
Are you telling me something that you've searched out and you have actual proof of this, or you're just regurgitating something you've heard, you've said, or someone said?
Mhm.
Talking points.
Yeah.
Like what are you telling me? And I think if we could slow things down sometimes, that's really what is happening. How did you come to this conclusion?
Mhm.
Why do you feel the way you do? Because those very same women that'll say they're just seeking asylum. Okay, but this guy moving in next door to you, he's undocumented. If he decides to come over and peek into your window, or God forbid, do something to you, how do we know who he is?
Yeah.
How do we find out? Maybe he is a rapist or a molester from that country that's in here, but he snuck through with everybody else because he's under the umbrella of asylum seeker, the word you love.
Mhm.
But now something happens to you. How do we figure out justice for you?
Yeah. We can't.
We can't. Are you willing to accept that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's sad, man. And huh?
We have to get our guns.
Let me show one more thing about the migrant thing. Tucker Carlson actually had a hidden camera in a migrant camp inside the Chicago airport, where they had like a blocked off area. I'm gonna just play it. It's only a minute long.
Even the socialist mayor of Chicago says the city is breaking under the strain. Our team uncovered a shadow terminal, for example, inside Chicago O'Hare Airport. Hundreds of migrants were being hidden there secretly. Our team pulled up with cameras rolling, and at first we didn't see much. The city erected a black tarp to hide what was going on, and a third-party security group paid for with your tax dollars told us that was prohibited. We weren't allowed to see.
What are you doing?
I want to look inside.
For what? For what?
Inside, our team found more than 100 beds on the floor. The smell was overpowering, repulsive. Even police stations in Chicago have been turned into refugee camps. This is new video never seen before of what's actually happening inside Chicago's police stations. Keep in mind, the people who work in those police stations are paid to protect you, but that's not what they're doing. They're running refugee camps for illegal aliens. We spoke to someone who has lived on the south side of Chicago virtually his entire life. He's enraged by how the city has fallen apart under its sanctuary city policy.
Andre Smith, CEO of Chicago Against Violence. I don't know the count, but I know that the readiness, the language of sanctuary city, state, and county should have had a plan, but it led to a massive destruction. I have seen almost the worst of the worst in Chicago, but seeing this migrant crisis was the most devastating thing that I ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder who he voted for.
Mm.
I'm just saying because like maybe
Even the socialist mayor of Chicago says
maybe he voted for people who wouldn't go along with these things, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times people want to be mad,
but they voted for these policies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're like, now they want to point fingers.
Mhm.
But again, we have to look at ourselves. Like we've been speaking about this for years.
Yeah.
For years we've been on here speaking about how these sanctuary cities, they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's going to cause problems.
Right.
It's going to backfire.
But all the sanctuary cities always existed not on the border. You know what I mean?
Right.
So now,
That's a big one.
Now all of a sudden that they're getting an influx of people, they don't want to be so sanctuary.
Yeah.
You know.
But all in their pride, and think about it. Like, what is pride? Pride is blindness.
Mhm.
Right. I was talking to Mom about this. What's the opposite of love?
Yeah. It's hate.
No.
What is it?
It's pride
Mm.
because of indifference. And what's indifference? It's lack of care. It's negligence.
Mm.
Because you're only focused on one thing. Pride is how I see things in my own light,
Mhm.
right? From my own light, from my own way. So therefore, I can't see everything. And if I humble myself, I recognize that I can't see everything. So I have to humble myself and step into God's light. He accounts for everything, right?
Right.
But when I'm prideful, and this is what these people do, they're prideful. We'll take them on, bring them here. Like this is what they were saying,
Yeah.
years ago,
Yeah.
right?
Eric
Bring 'em
Adams.
here.
Eric Adams was saying that.
But they're speaking from a place of pride where you think it's love, but it's indifference.
Mhm.
It's indifference. It's neglect. It's you actually don't care, but it's not shown until later on when things are out of control. And the ones you put in charge, they're not for you. And
Yeah.
you start to realize, oh, they weren't for us. Right? Because now they're running.
Yeah.
They're not standing behind what they said.
Right.
And they're not apologizing for what they said.
Yeah.
I think too, the mayors and these public officials, right? They have bought into the ideology of politics,
Mhm.
but they're not told the full story. So the people who are really controlling the elites that are behind the scenes are not going to tell them the end game. They just know they can only see a certain distance.
Mhm.
So they've played into the ideology of politics, the wordplay. They've played into that. That's as much as they know,
Mm.
right? And the people who really control this, because listen, when I look at this, I don't see just something haphazardly happening. To be able to go to an airport and set up curtains, that
Yeah.
has to be well organized.
Yeah.
That's not just a bunch of people and an airport manager. Get some curtains up there.
Yeah.
This is something way more organized.
Right.
All right.
And all those people got cell phones that are working.
Got cell phones that are working. So to me, what I see is even though it looks chaotic, there's organization
Mhm.
here, and I think the mayors and these public officials that have been voted in, they're really pawns in a bigger plan.
Yep, you're right.
And they themselves are clueless. That's why when they get up there, they sound clueless.
Yeah.
They're just saying, they're given a script, they're given a certain language, certain words to use, and that's all they know.
Yeah.
They don't know. They're just so happy to be there. They're happy. It's kind of like what American Idol exposed with the industry.
Right.
There's a lot of people who just want to be famous.
Yeah. They want to be in the club.
They just want to be there.
So then you're an imposter.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what they are. They're imposters, but they're using the language because they're good enough to get the title. They have the title. They're thinking about their career. They're thinking about what they're gonna get from it. They don't even know the end game. So the people that control that the real principalities, the real powers, the real people in high places understand that we have to use this guy, this woman, this man. We have to use this person to funnel this plan through. And I think they themselves don't even know what's happening. When they go face the public, and I've seen Chicago citizens go and speak to them, and you can see how clueless they are when the citizens are barking at them.
Yeah.
And they're just hold on, wait, we got to be respectful. Hey,
Yeah.
guy, you
Yep.
sit down. And you can see they don't know. It's just talking points.
Right.
It's just talking point. You can see Eric Adams, and maybe we can bring people in the house, and if you have a home and a basement and a bed down there, come in and put them in there.
Did you see that in Boston? They were trying to tell residents to take people in their homes.
Yeah, you could see that doesn't sound like somebody with a plan.
Yeah. Like, you don't know these people?
But actually, in a way, what it does is the people who fell for the language, the verbiage, the ideology, what they're seeing is that these people who they were championing are blind.
Yeah.
They're blind and they don't know what they're doing. And that's why they need, sometimes it's the message itself is not so much it's for the people who are willfully closing their eyes. They can't deny it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But why are they closing their eyes? Because it's not that they're closing their eyes, it's that they're focused on the wrong thing. Right? It's that they're focused, they call light dark. I mean, they call darkness light. Right? They think they see light, but it's actually darkness.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what I'm talking about, what I gave to you to show. Because it kind of speaks to what he's saying. Because there's these people who that are they're talking and they're saying these things, and obviously they don't know what they're talking about.
You talking about the Tommy clip?
No, before that. I sent you.
Have you ever heard of a game called
the werewolf game?
Yeah.
Okay.
So because there's the ones who are
Have you
really
ever heard of a game called
the ones who are really working are the ones who are hidden.
Right.
But the thing is, if you're focused on, and this is where I think we're learning. I believe that as believers, don't get caught up into the hidden thing. The hidden thing is going to be exposed, right? And this is where this comes into play.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of a game called Werewolf?
No.
Everyone gets a piece of paper. It's either got villager written on it, but 2 have the word werewolf. Someone runs the game to make sure no one's cheating, and they go, okay, it's nighttime, everyone close your eyes. Werewolves choose someone to kill, and the werewolves go. They say, okay, everyone close your eyes, it's morning time, open them again. During the night, Francis was killed. There's then a conversation, and this is where it gets interesting, between all the villagers and the 2 werewolves over who the werewolves are. Then at the end of the day, the villagers have to decide who they're going to kill, and they say, well, we're going to kill Constantine. It's revealed by the person running the game, I'm afraid Constantine was a villager. And the game continues. The villagers win the game if they kill both werewolves. The werewolves win the game if they kill all but 2 villagers. And the werewolves usually win. The game was invented by a student of sociology in Russia who wanted to prove his thesis that an uninformed majority will always lose a battle of information against an informed minority. So that just...
Yeah, because it's so much easier to manipulate the masses if you have information that they don't have.
Yeah.
You know, and I've seen this video before. It's funny, I sent this to Simone because a couple weeks ago when we were at his house, he had a game night and we played this game.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, but it was a different version of it. It was called Mafia. So instead of werewolves, there's 2 mafia members.
Okay.
And it's the same concept, except there's other twists involved because you have one person is a investigator and one person is like a healer. So you have 2 mafia people that are killing off the townspeople or whatever. But there's one person in the group that can heal someone, and there's one person that can investigate and find out who the mafia people are. So it makes it a little easier to win. For the townspeople to win, because if you can figure out who the cop is, or you can figure out who the healer is.
Soften it up a bit.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But yeah, if you didn't have any of that, if you
Yeah.
just had a group of people and 2 people were the killers and everyone had to try to figure out who they were, how easy is that to manipulate? Because the 2 people that are killing everybody can just pretend, you know, they can cause chaos and pretend.
They pretend they're just like you.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And so this made me think of because that game shows you like it can put you in fear.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we deal with this a lot and we don't realize it, especially when we're in this world where we grow up in these realities. We grow up in broken homes. We grow up in these situations. Like think about you grow up in a home and you can't even trust your parents.
Yeah.
Right. Your parents are wolves,
Mhm.
right? You can't even trust your own parents. You can't trust your family. You can't trust your brothers, your sister. You can't trust anybody. So when you live in fear of wolves, you live in a reality of insecurity.
Well, think about it. That's how a lot of people in poverty-stricken areas grow up.
Right. So then think about this, because we kind of talked a little bit about this. Like, think about like, then people want to call out, man, the Illuminati. Don't you? The Illuminati, man, they doing this, they doing that. They're always trying to find out what's being hidden, the things done in the dark. They're so focused on trying to prove themselves. They're so focused on trying to defend themselves, right? So, is what I was. When you live in fear of wolves, you live in unsecure reality, right?
Yeah.
But you actually, you live in fear of being stolen from. You live in fear of being shamed. You live in fear of being killed, right? You live in fear of judgment because everybody is trying to judge everybody all of the time.
Man, that sounds like the inner city.
You're always looking over your shoulder, right? You think and how does that change? Somebody has to lay down their life.
Yeah.
There's no greater love than you lay down your life for your friend.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting that Jesus says that I am the good shepherd who lays his life down for the sheep? And he says that there are those who call themselves shepherds, right? That when the wolves come, they run, right? Because the wolf comes and the sheep are stolen and they scatter, right? They're slaughtered and they scatter. And it says because they care nothing for the sheep. That's what, again, so I spoke about the indifference, right? Because that's what indifference is.
Yeah.
The opposite of love is indifference and pride. Because I'm focused on, I'm caring for you, not because I actually care for you. I'm caring for you because I actually care for myself. And so many people are putting themselves in positions of authority, putting themselves in positions where they feel strength, empowerment, so that they can get the satisfaction or the comfort of living up to the image that has been pushed before them their whole lives, right? And it brings them a sense of comfort where they feel like they are in security.
Yeah.
See what I mean? Because now they feel like they're at the top or they got things under control. But it's actually all a lie because because you're actually a wolf, right?
Yeah.
You're not a real shepherd, but when a wolf comes that's stronger than you, you're out.
Right.
Right? You're running. Because it's like, I don't really care about them.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, if we trust in God, he teaches us how to be shepherds. When we trust in God, we recognize, oh, wait, these aren't my sheep. They're your sheep. So whenever I'm weak, I can give them back to you. And you can take you can take the burden. You can take what I can't take on. And then you grow in his care. You grow in his strength because he's the good shepherd. None of us are good, right? But we're learning his goodness and we're learning how to live in his goodness. Taste and see that the Lord is good, right? So we're learning how to live in that goodness. But when we're trying to live up to an image of good, then we're always going to fail and we're always going to miss the wolf. We're always going to miss the wolf. We're not going to see the wolf coming because we're so busy trying to do all the things that we think we need to do to protect the sheep in our own way.
Right.
And to me, it's just so much of a comfort and a rest when I have somebody who took it all on for me that I can rely on and trust in. And that's what love is. That's where love starts. So how can I actually care for people if I don't first let God care for me so that he can actually care for my family, right? Or care for other people that he's put in my authority. You know, how can I actually do it? I can't. I'm actually unable. And if we're real with ourselves, we see so many times how we are weak in our care for our families.
Yeah.
In what God has placed us. We need him. Right? You can act like you got it all together, but time tells, right? And time shows.
Yeah.
So my point is that if we're in fear, we're always going to be trying to prove ourselves and trying to point the finger and trying to find a wolf, right? Trying to find who's hiding, where the wolf is hiding. The wolf is, you can't see the wolf, right? Because the wolf hides in the darkness, right? The wolf hides in the darkness and comes out and is gone again, right? And we're learning what exposes the wolf. It's light. And light has to do with the love of God, because light has to do with the life of God. It says, in him was life, and the life was the light of men, right? And the life is the blood. It's his love that covers. So we're learning that love. We're learning his love, and we're learning how to love. And it's also interesting. A lot of people don't know this because they don't know the church world, but there's a lot of exposure going on in the church world, right? There's a lot of stuff coming out. Wolves in sheep's clothing, right? And why are we seeing this now? And I believe because God is teaching us the point. And he spoke this to me praying. I heard this a while ago. Is it better to be precise and accurate or to be loving and merciful? You know, like it's not about being precise and accurate. It's not about being right. It's about loving each other. And that's where so what you were talking about earlier, like how when we ask questions, when we're trying to find why people have come to these conclusions that they've come to, that's how we love people, when we're patient with people, you know, and don't just, you're just an a-hole, you know, when we're patient with people and we can connect with them. That's more powerful than what the wolf is trying to do behind closed doors. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because the more, you know how it says, the wolves in sheep's clothing are the false prophets, and it says you'll know them by their fruit. Well, how about, or it says you'll recognize them by their fruit. But how are you going to recognize them if you don't recognize him? How are you going to know them if you don't know him first? Because you're not going to know the difference. And they're going to portray an image, right? How many false Jesuses? Jesus says there's going to be false Christ that come, right? How many false Jesus come and they're like, yeah, I serve Jesus. Yeah, I love Jesus. But you don't even know who he really is. And then you start to go after this image. How many religions honor Jesus, but it's not really Jesus in their own way, right? Every major religion acknowledges Jesus, but it's in their own image.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you gotta recognize the light. But you gotta try to conform it and pervert it so that you can still be alive.
Yeah.
You know, that's the wolf. You know what I mean? Because you gotta steal from it. You gotta take from it, right? But when we learn how to love, I believe that's what strengthens us, because we learn how to truly watch each other's backs, truly care for one another. And that's the thing that I think we're not looking like, because the game actually teaches you how to win is you're looking at everybody as the wolf. That's how you start to focus your life in that way, and that's actually damaging. You know what I mean? That's why you most of the time in that game, as the villagers lose, right? But when you learn how to trust God, our victory is in Christ, and then we learn a different way,
Right.
So then this other clip, which is Tomi Arayomi, he's kind of like talking about that a little bit.
Can I just add a couple of things to it?
Yeah.
I'll say this, right? Like I've heard of this before, but this is the first time I heard someone explain like that. I think the ancient mystery schools that are always talked about were something that a lot of people don't look into, but it was really deep in psychology, understanding human patterns and behavior. Because here's the thing, right? What the person who came up with that game was a psychology student.
Yeah.
Right? From what the guy described there. But from a biblical perspective is this: we as Christians, as believers, we know that there is a wolf and we know that there's a strategy. In that game, how it would apply to Christians is this: there's villagers, there are two people who are wolf, but somebody in the village understands that there are wolves there, and they have a tool, which is the Bible, in reference to how these wolves operate. The problem today is this: a lot of Christians they put down this, they don't renew their minds with the word, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because what does the Bible say? The devil walks around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may disrupt. If you change that to wolf, then you'll know that there's two wolves there.
Right.
So there will be people who are going to be devoured, but if you would be diligent, you could convince and talk to other people and say, listen, there are two wolves here.
Yeah.
And what we're dealing with is there are two wolves that are trying to pretend to be villagers, right? Instead of being left with two, we can put up a fight. But a lot of Christians would bury their head in the sand. We're worried about growing the church bigger. We're worried about the singing ministry. We're worried about Pastor Appreciation Month.
Yeah.
We're not really focusing on the devouring. And I think a lot of times what I've been noticing, I was raised in the church, is this: where we have fallen apart is this: we have sort of, as believers, we know that there's wolves. But what we've done is we actually made a seat for the wolves.
Yeah.
We've brought them in, and we don't say, hey, listen, it's okay to come in as you are, but you can't stay where you are. You can't stay there. You can't stay there spiritually. You have to grow. And I think in a story like this, it tells me that a lot of times as believers, we're very afraid to offend people and say, hey, listen, guys, there's a wolf in here. You know, we see that today with the church, where what has the church done? They've kind of placated towards the way society is behaving.
Yeah.
We've allowed it. We're seeing that with what's the recent one? Michael Todd. You know what I mean? And his Christmas Eve celebration. These are believers.
Yeah.
And if you call them out, or if you call out bad behavior, you're anti-love. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That, to me, these kind of games that we see playing here are just really a psychological thing that, as believers, we're not saying you have to read and study the Word of God to really understand. And that wolf they're talking about is Satan.
Yeah.
That's all he is.
Yeah. Well, it's also people who take on their own desires.
Yeah.
And want to see those things played out. Right? Those are the wolves. And you brought up, it says to be watchful, be sober-minded. But before it says that, it says, humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, and he will exalt you, casting your cares or your anxieties on him, because he cares for you. Then it goes into be sober-minded and be watchful, because the devil walks around like a roaring lion, seeking who he can devour. Right? So what's the first thing? It's humbling ourselves. As we humble ourselves, we're learning, like, we're going to be anxious. When we're anxious, are we going to our own solutions? Are we jumping to our own conclusions? Right? And that's where we start to become conformed to the ways of the world.
Because that's what they're doing.
Yeah. Because we're looking for the solution. And if we're not turning to God, then we're turning to the world.
Right.
Right? But when we turn to God, then what happens? We're not conformed by the world. We give ourselves up. I give this to you, God. Because everything that we have anxiety for, it's his.
Yeah.
You know, like if the wolf steals, well, God can give back. You know, there's something that people get torn up on a lot, where they're like, well, why would a good God let a child have cancer? Or why would he let a child get abused? And they're asking the wrong question. God sees everything. God recognizes everything. He takes account of everything. But what you don't understand is, even though that child has died, that child's life is not over. Because when we trust in God, he's gonna be raised from the dead. His life is not done. We see it in that way when we only see this life. Right? But God is accounting for eternity. He's not accounting for just this lifespan that we live in.
Yeah.
He's looking at more. So even in that, like, if we confine ourselves to surviving this life, then we're lacking, you know, and we're going to conform to the world. But when we know, no, I got to give up this life. I got to give up this life. When we recognize that, now we can turn to God, right? And we can live in freedom. It's interesting how it says, like, it talks about looking into the law of liberty, the perfect law of liberty. To look into the law of liberty, well, who is the law of liberty? He is. Who is freedom? He is, right? He's our freedom.
Right.
So how can we look into the law of liberty when we've got our own freedom? When we're living by our own rules, when we want to live by our own desires. And then we're mad at God because we don't see the things that we think are supposed to happen in our life happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. And then we wonder why we can't see the wolves.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, let me play this clip.
I keep hearing that scripture verse, Micah 6:8. Micah 6:8, and it says, and what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly before the Lord.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna play this.
Why is exposure coming? Can I tell you why exposure is coming? Not because you're cursing darkness, but because you're finally lighting candles. Let me say it again. Why is exposure coming? The Lord says, I am not exposing because you're cursing darkness. I'm exposing because the church is finally lighting candles. You see, whatever is light makes manifest. The fact that there's so much light coming from the church now means that those who have been living in darkness and think that they're light, but they're not, their darkness that they thought was light is getting ready to be revealed as darkness. And how deep then, the Bible says, is that darkness? And so we're getting ready to see a grand exposure of the church. And the wrong attitude is to be giddy. The wrong attitude is to be excited. The wrong attitude towards what we're about to see is to just go, finally, that preacher's got his turn. Because how quickly we forget what we've been forgiven from. And be careful. Because the same measure by which you judge is going to be measured exactly back onto you. God will judge you how you judge this season. What's the appropriate response to leaders falling? Mercy. Cry mercy. Surely goodness and mercy. When his goodness feels like it's running out, that's when I lean on his mercy.
Yeah, to me that's so powerful because, again, you know, when the world starts to press in on us and it's hard to see the goodness of God, we're becoming weak, right? Because when it talks about young lions that are being raised by God, it says, taste and see that the Lord is good, right?
Yeah.
You're learning how to fear God. Let me teach you the fear of the Lord. You're learning how to take refuge in God as young lions. The young lions suffer lack. Why? Because they're going after the wrong thing, right? What is the devil walks around like a roaring lion seeking who he can devour? He's seeking who's going to fall under his judgment. Right? He's going to judge you. He's going to pick your world apart. And when we fall into the same thing, we're just like him. But when we learn to, and we're looking to devour the wrong thing. That's why he's saying, he said, don't, the response isn't to be happy about this stuff.
Right.
Because people are being exposed.
I find myself having to, that was something I had to deal with like recently.
Yeah.
You know, of not finding joy of exposure.
Yeah.
When I say it, I don't want to sound like I was doing backflips, but
I know what you mean.
But you know, that sense of like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah, you feel justice.
Yeah,
in a sense.
you know,
you feel a happiness because it feels like justice.
Right. And yeah, no, he's absolutely correct. That's a spirit that could easily take root. You know what I mean? And so I because the world is doing it. So you're kind of along there with them, you know. And it's a sad day. It's sad, you know, because even whether these men are going to be exposed or not, because I do feel like what's happening is we are going to be in a season of exposure. You know, politically, biblically, spiritually, what's happening. There's a lot of things that's been going on here.
Right.
And we need to, as believers, we need to pray, because we if we join in with them, what does that make us?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We're no better than them.
This is about mercy, and Jake and I were talking about that today, right, Jake? About how merciful and good God is. It's just a little thing that I was reading in the scripture today, and I started crying because God showed me His mercy. You know.
Yeah, he shows how he cares for things, these little things that we don't think he cares for. He cares for. He pays attention to. So he's looking at all these things, and just because we don't recognize it, doesn't mean it's not being dealt with. Right. And that's how we get into prejudice. Young lions suffer lack because of prejudice, prejudgment, prejustice, right? False judgments, right? They're jumping to conclusions, jumping to their own ways of dealing with things, false solutions. And we're learning how to be patient with people.
Yeah.
When it seems like almost impossible.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It seems
the hardest people to be patient with sometimes.
Yeah. We're learning how to be patient. We're learning how to be gentle to those who God has put in our vicinity to be able to talk to or to have an influence over.
Have grace.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm dealing with that right now. I was just telling you guys earlier with a coworker of mine, and my boss said, do you want me to schedule you with something else? And I said, no, I'm not going to have you change around, because then I'm in fear of him.
Right.
I'm changing. So I said, no, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Even though it's uncomfortable and it doesn't, I've learned to say no. Schedule, we'll work it out. And we've been working for the last couple of days, and I've just decided that I'm really not going to be baited by behaviors and certain things. I'm going to reset the tone. You know what I mean? For it, you know. Because, you know, I'm working for someone. I used to work for myself, so I work for someone now. So it's like, I don't want him to, because I came on as a manager, so I don't want him to be like, hey, change around everything for me because I can't handle this.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
And sometimes, like I said, God wants us in positions like that.
Absolutely.
Work with us.
Yeah, so I accepted, and I said, no, I'm not gonna I'm gonna control the way I respond and I behave. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think one of the strongest things that can be developed in a man is self-control. And learning how nothing can move you. Nothing, no matter what you go, is going to move you into acting in your emotions. That's one of the most powerful things that God develops in men.
Yeah. That's a fruit of the Spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah, controlling yourself.
Yeah, so we gotta learn that discipline. We gotta work that muscle, that self-control muscle, and always be mindful of that in all situations. Like, am I being brought into emotion? You know?
Yeah.
And notice those triggers and
recognize your weaknesses.
Recognize where you're weak. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's a good place to wrap it up, guys. Shout out to Emma, checked in the
Emma.
chat. He said, "Good evening, guys." What's up, Emma? Theris. Shout out to Theris. She said, "You better preach." And she sent 50 stars over there. Appreciate you. Mom, are you going to switch the camera at some point?
Just catch me yawning.
I'm still thinking, okay.
Yeah, so we're going to wrap it up, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for sticking with us, those who have been here the whole time. We appreciate you. Don't forget, we got a Patreon if you want to sign up and support what we do, support these kind of conversations of, it's not often that people get to see men kind of hash out these ideas and have these conversations in a real way, not some scripted podcast or some mindless comedy podcast or some political arguing debate podcast. Like, this is just,
we're not scripted.
No, we find topics that we think are interesting to talk about, and we just hash it out. So if you want to support that, go to our Patreon, patreon.com/youngliontv. For as little as $3 a month, you can become a member and sign up and be a part of the Pride. Become a Young Lion. Also, don't forget, you can get the merch at our merch store, and you can rep the gear that way, rep the fact that you're a Young Lion, you're part of the Pride. Thank you guys to all of our Patreon members. You guys make this possible. And all of our supporters. And also, we have a Cash App if you want to just throw some donations at us. It's $ Young Lion TV. And other than that, man, thank you guys. We appreciate you. See you guys next week. Oh, we have a show coming up if you're in the Philly, Jersey area. February 29th. Tickets are on sale. They just went on sale on Friday.
Leap year.
Yeah.
Or leap day.
Tickets are already selling. So if you want to get a table, make sure you go City Winery, Philadelphia, and go on the website and get tickets to the show. February 29th. It's a Thursday evening, Leap Day. We're doing a show at the City Winery. So, appreciate y'all. See you guys next week. Peace.
Young Lion, go live, yeah. Young Lion, you rich, yeah. This kingdom has room, yeah. Go and fight people.